Yeah, just some thoughts on this whole GameStop debacle that's been going on. Um, I just brought up this tweet because I thought it was kind of like the most interesting, entertaining tweet about the whole thing by Senior Striker. Uh, you have another exorcization, if that's even a word, of kind of populist outrage um, directed at a community that dissidents, people who are disenchanted, which would be, like rich Wall Streeters, which I understand why they would be a target. Everyone would group them in with the elites. I personally don't think short selling is a huge vice, although many people do view it that way. You could make the case that they perform kind of a good function. They're on the opposite side of people maybe running up stocks, which happens in bubbles. So, I personally don't think short sellers are a nefarious force or hedge fund managers who, individually they don't control a huge market. They weren't really involved in the 2008 crash. That was the big banks that took on too much risk. I know people were really angry about the bailouts, but a lot of people don't know that the government pressured the banks to take on those bailouts for liquidity purposes so they didn't end up like Lehman Brothers and crashing the system. And we, the taxpayers, actually made billions of dollars on that because we charged interest or dividends on those loans. I don't know the exact numbers, but I've seen it ranging from 36 billion to over 100 billion, which that's not really that big in relation to the size of our federal government, but still, if you're making a profit of billions off of loaning to banks, that's not bad. I understand people are angry because the banks got saved, um, but the taxpayers got paid. You know what I mean? So they didn't nationalize the banks, but they could have lost money, which they didn't too. Anyway, that's an aside, but it relates to just the general hatred people have of elites and the financial industry, um, which is understandable. But uh, at the end of the day, what good does bankrupting a hedge fund do? If that even is, I don't think it happened, but even if it did happen, it's kind of just like misplaced attention and exercising of vengeance that makes people feel better, but doesn't actually, do anything. In fact, I'd be willing to bet a small amount of money, not a large amount of money, that the Redditors as a whole will end up losing money, and institutional investors like these hedge funds will eat their lunch because they're giving them price action, which they can utilize to make a profit. But I mean, that doesn't really matter. It's the same dynamics as many of these other events. People that are angry, disenfranchised, which is understandable that people might feel that way. But they pick a target, which doesn't necessarily help them individually, but makes people feel better. In this case, it's hedge funds, and I understand why they would pick this guy. I think he's building a $44 million mansion down at Miami Beach. I mean, gotta admit, I'm a little jealous. I would like to have a $44 million mansion in Miami Beach, but at the same time, I don't feel like fucking up this guy's hedge fund is going to help me individually, nor do I feel any, animosity toward this guy unless he's defrauding investors or partaking in something illegal. So you kind of have this. I'm surprised at this Reddit action because it's basically manipulation of a stock market. So I'm surprised it's not illegal in some way. So that's probably why. Now there's this argument. Well, maybe the Redditors are colluding. They're manipulating the stock market. But then others are saying the brokers, by not facilitating their trades, are manipulating the stock market. But I would agree more with the former, that it's the Redditors that are colluding to manipulate the stock market, not the hedge funds and brokers. But of course, an action has a reaction, and this group acts like they're being screwed again. The little guy's getting screwed because they can't buy their GameStop. To me, I think it's kind of a public service. I think these redditors are going to get burned. They don't know what they're doing. They actually want to get burned. They're like, if I buy it for 300 and it goes to zero, I'm fine with that. At least I'm fighting the hedge funds, which I don't think you are, because some hedge fund is going to short it, is going to take your shares and sell them, and then buy them back from you when it gets down to like two or zero. So although it feels good, it's exercising this rage. I don't think it's doing anything. I think it's unhealthy actually, but it certainly is interesting. And if people want to partake in things like this, I mean, they have a right to. I just don't think it's that smart. Now, somebody who has my opinion, they'll be accused of backing the elites, being a tool of the elites. But that's the language that's always used. But I find these situations interesting where people find a target of their rage. They try to do something to take that person down. What are some other examples of this? They say the video game controversy. I can't remember what that was called now for some reason. Um, that's kind of like what started the alt right. But there's going to be more examples of this, of internet collusion to find targets that they hate. And I can't believe I can't remember what the video game phenomenon was. Um, led by like Sargon of Akkad and that crowd. But anyway, Gamergate or something like that. Yeah, let me look that up. But I just thought it was interesting. Yeah, and here's Stryker saying, so it was a populist movement, and then of course some of your more extreme elements jump on that because it's a good movement to get a part of and get recruits and get your message out there. Trying to make it to a lot of people, it's like a Wall Street thing. Um, Occupy Wall Street. It's like an extension of that. We're against the bankers, we're against the billionaires. Um, but of course, somebody like Stryker is going to say this is just a distraction. It's really about the Jews and how they interact with other Jews. It's part of a conspiracy. So here he's saying, shorting Jewish stocks is a microcosm of Jewish group strategy. Take something negative and try to attribute to the one group he feels is responsible for pretty much all the vices. Is Gamergate is what I was talking about. Use the media to build bad publicity. Like all the articles about how GameStop's business is going down the tubes. Yeah, like those poor Vice reporters are in collusion with hedge funds to make those guys billions while they get paid, like 50 grand a year. That's what he's implying. Um, I don't know if some people believe this. Some people are just trying to. Maybe he believes it. Maybe he's just saying it because even if it's not true, you can still say it. Some people are going to buy it. Coordinate a financial attack, which is interesting. So, like, all the Jews are colluding to short GameStop. The biggest shareholder is an activist investor. So, actually, the Redditors have made this guy rich if he's able to sell those shares. It's it's made his net worth balloon, this whole price action. If the target or a group tries to fight back, use your political power to break them. I guess he's talking about not facilitating the trades. But this is just a good microcosm of how they argue this. Take a negative phenomenon, attribute it to the group that you don't like, solely to that group or mostly to that group, and try to tie in any action as a part of a conspiracy. I just find it interesting. Anyway, I don't know. I just think the whole thing is stupid, but yeah, entertaining. Just an example of how dissidents take out their rage, hatred, frustration on a target, not necessarily in a productive way. But it's always interesting. Anyway, that's all. Everyone have a good day.